Thank you for viewing this recording on how to set up Git within Eclipse and configure your SSH keys to do that. I'm going to show it on Windows and then also show you the few little variants to do that on a Mac or a Linux environment. So on a Windows environment, we're going to go ahead and download Git, which is a Git package for Windows 7. And then we're going to go ahead and download PuTTY. Okay, so you can look at these URLs on your screen, or I also have separate instructions where you can get those from directly. But basically, you're going to go ahead and look for PuTTygen and download that as this exe. And then similarly for Git, if you click on from here, you can click on Git and click on Google Code. Then you go ahead and you can download that file. Okay, so that's on Windows. So once you've done that, I'm not going to do that because I already have those, but you would just install them and it's very quick, accept the defaults. Okay, and then you can go ahead into PuTTygen. You can just search for it here, or I've got a shortcut here. So go ahead and go into PuTTygen and click on Generate, and now you're going to move your mouse around a little bit because that generates, helps generate the key with some random numbers and things. So, all right, now we've got our key. And we can basically go ahead and say save our public and our private key. We're going to need both of those. So let's go ahead and hit save our private key. You can do a password or not. It's not a big deal. We could just do a very short password here if we want. All right. And then the place we're going to save it, and this is a little bit critical, is your home directory and in this .ssh folder. All right. So if you click on your home directory, mine is nhunt, and then I already have a .ssh, but either create one if it doesn't exist, and then you can go ahead and say id_rsa, and that's what we want to call it. And we're going to select all files because we don't want a file extension on that. So we save it as id_rsa for our private key, and then our public key is going to be idrsa.pub. Okay, so idrsa, I'm not going to save it because I already have one, and that's already loaded into my Git repository on the server, so I'm not going to overwrite that, but that's what I would do. Same thing with the public key, but again, idrsa.pub, and that's what we would call it. If you already have those, you don't need to do this again, but assuming you don't, or if you just generate, assuming you already have one, or that you just generated one now, you're going to take this newly saved idrsa.pub and you're going to email that to me. And just send it as an attachment, and then I will add that to the CloudBees Git host server, and that way you'll be able to now talk to our Git host. So you do that, you just have to wait for me to do that, but I will do that very quickly as soon as you get it to me. And then you're done with this part. Now, from there, let me just show you quickly on Mac, which is the same as a Linux environment, as to how to do this. You can basically go to your... First, you can check if you've already have one. .shid RSA. So I already have one, of course. But if you don't have one, what you would do is do ssh-keygen -f tilde.sh/id_rsa, and it'll automatically generate both a private key called this and a public key with the same name .pub. Okay, I'm not going to do that because of course I already have them, but again, that's all you would have to do. Okay. Now, once you've downloaded the Git, now you can go ahead and launch into that. I have a shortcut, but you can also go into it from Git and go into Git bash. Okay. Now, what you're going to do is cd into your Eclipse workspace directory. So mine is, I think, Eclipse workspace. All right, and that's it. Tilde Eclipse workspace. That's in my home directory. All right. And the first thing I want to do is just verify that my key is being decrypted by the server. So I can do this. Oh, and I do have a password on mine, so I just enter my password. Eclipse, now we're seeing CloudBees Forge. If you see CloudBees Forge, that means it has been decrypted. Need SSH original, and then it's just going to close the environment, close it immediately. However, if you get some type of error, like authentication denied, that's the most likely one you might get. That means that there was some error in the key decryption process, and so you're going to have to talk to me about that. We may have to create a new key. But hopefully that worked. And if that's the case, then usually from here on out, it should be pretty smooth. So we're just going to go ahead, and we're actually going to clone our Git repository. All right. So I have set up a project that we can use just for quickly debugging any issues that may come up, and to verify that we can commit and check out and that kind of thing without disrupting any of the regular projects. So go ahead and do this /lsi/git verify.git, and we can do this again if you're using a Mac or a Linux environment. Most likely you have Git already installed, so you don't need to install anything, and you can just execute these commands at the command line. It's possible you don't, in which case you just have to download Git for your platform, and that's usually very easy. There's pre-compiled packages for most platforms, so you can go ahead and Google that. But most likely you already have it installed, so this should be the same no matter what environment you're working on, the same command. So let's go ahead and execute. Again, it's going to ask me for my SSH key. Password, and so all right, so that looks good. So I have successfully cloned the Git repository, and so now we're going to go ahead and go into Eclipse, okay, so that we can see how we can add this Git repository and start working with this project immediately. All right, so launch Eclipse. I've got mine up already. All right, now I'm running the latest version of of Eclipse, the Juno. So I think it'll work on older versions, but again, always safer to go with the latest version if you can. So we're going to go ahead and go into Help and go into Eclipse Marketplace. All right, and you've probably been here if you've installed other plugins and things. So if you go into the Eclipse Marketplace, and we're going to go ahead and say, just search for Git. And it should be the first thing that comes up. The one that we want is EGit. And it would say install. If you don't have it installed, in my case it has update and uninstall. But if you go to install, you can go ahead and install that. It should be automatic, and then just restart Eclipse. Okay, we're not going to do that here because I've already done it. Now, once your Git Eclipse plugin is installed, now let's go ahead and add our Git repository. Okay, so we can go ahead and go into the Git repository exploring perspective, and if you don't have that, you can always go to Open Perspective Other, and now, assuming the plugin installed correctly, you would see the Git repository exploring, and we'll just go ahead and hit OK. Now we can go ahead and add a Git repository, add an existing Git repository. All right, I already had that set there, but basically browse to the Git verify, the repository that you just cloned, and then if you hit, and then it should automatically find this Git repository, which is basically your full path /.git, and we'll hit finish. Okay, and now it's basically imported that repository into Eclipse. Now, at this point, so our repository is there, but now we actually want to get the project to work in Eclipse as well. So we're going to go ahead and go into File, Import, and I'm assuming you already have the Maven Eclipse, the M2 Eclipse plugin installed. So if you don't, you would have to install that, which you can also do through the Eclipse Marketplace. But assuming you already have the Maven plugin installed inside Eclipse, then you can go ahead and just go to Maven, existing Maven projects. Next. Now we're going to, the root directory again, we can just select that Git verify project. Okay. And it should find that this is an existing Maven project and give you the information you need. All right. And you just hit finish. No need to do anything super special there. All right. We go into our Java EE. We go back to our Java environment. Now we've got our thing. It should read that it's a Maven project and all that. Okay, we've just got some basic stuff here in a README file. Now, we're also going to connect this to our Git environment. So if we go to Team, we go to Share Project, it will, and we select Git rather than CVS. Now it should automatically register that there's already an existing Git repository, so it's probably going to check that, and then you just hit finish. And now it's registering. You can see it has the Git icons there, the little barrel. And then if you go to team this time, you're going to see all the different Git options. And so we can do one final test here, and demo screencast update. Maybe just add something to this file, and then it'll tell you there's been a modification. And then I just click on that team, synchronize the workspace. Okay, and it's going to synchronize with the repository, and it'll ask you if you want to use the team perspective. I usually do, so I hit yes. It'll tell you that there's a change. README has changed. So I just go ahead and team commit and screencast commit. And then I select that. I can actually hit push to upstream. That'll just push it right to my upstream repository at the same time, which in this case is just fine. So we'll do that. Hit commit. Pushing to remote repository, and push to git verify. And we can see exactly the files that have been changed, sent to that repository, and we are done. So at that point, from here on out, you can simply start interacting with this. You can do it to other projects we're working on, figuring out the rest of the projects that we can incorporate into Git, and then you can continue to operate this way, and let me know if you have any further questions.